Hi, I'm Teresa Ford, and I'm going to tell you how to use my Mandala art creator. It's actually pretty simple. You have SVGs, that stands for Scalar Vector Graphic, which is line and math based versus little dots and pixels. So we have all of these different pieces that we can apply to our overall design over here. And we have some different options, which we're going to scroll down. Notice this left panel scrolls for you. All right, you can scale both items and it's going to make the original, this is the original, bigger in your design. So we can do that. We could also scale it unproportionally, like so, and squish it around and do weird things. If you decide you don't like something, you can always hit the undo button up here, bink, and undo it back if you want. You could have done redo. If you wanted to rotate your original design, if you look over here in your design, the original is the one currently sitting at 0 degrees from the center. So it's going to match up here. So I can change that and it rotates it. You can see it rotating up here. So you can change how that works if you wanted to. All right, you could also drag and use the slider. You don't have to be precise. If you wanted to, this is all command line stuff. This is the line we are currently on right here. And we could type it in up here if we know we wanted 90. There's a -R for rotation. And I'm just going to hit the tab key to go to whatever the next control is, and it'll auto save and update for you. All right, we can continue down. We have stroke weight, which is how thick the line is. Stroke is the line of the object. We have color we can choose, although this is not an art program, so if you really wanted to mess with things, you could pull it down and download it in any of these forms here. You can get it in the original SVG or as a PNG or a JPEG, and you can color it in an actual art program. You can also change the opacity of the stroke. You can change the fill color if you wanted to. And you can make it really ugly, apparently. I'm not real fond of that. Not real fond of that one either, but we're going to keep it. Same thing with the fill. You can drop the opacity of the fill, which is important if you start layering, when you start layering things. You can also adjust the count of items for how many around the circle you're getting. And keep in mind that there will be one that's going to be on top because it's going to slowly add to the top all the way around the circle. And there'll be one that's sitting on top. So you can always rotate out the pattern, which we'll get to. All right, here we go. In order to get it to hide, you could bump it down to say at 180 and move it down. And you have the standard ones for a circle. You can also manually hit the up down button. Distance is how far from the center the object is. So we can push it out farther and farther. And it looks like it's getting smaller. It's actually just scaling the graphic so it fits in this space. It's not shrinking. It's just moving farther out and fitting itself into the space here. Offset is where it starts drawing. So it starts at 0 by default. We can push it so it starts at 45 degrees and the start point is over here. And then it draws around. All right, we can come back here. The dash dot pattern is easier to see if there's only one of them. So if we bump down to 1. All right, dash dot just changes the dots on the line, and you can look that up in Photoshop or Illustrator. But if you put 1, 1, hit the tab key, it'll show you, it'll put one pixel of drawing and then 1 pixel of space. You can stack them and say 3 and then 1, and it'll do a 3 width piece and jump down and then a 1 dot piece. So you can stretch this out as far out as you want. The line joins, I can show you over in the gallery. All right, the actual command script is sitting here, and you can manually type in here if you wanted to. And this works like Photoshop layers, so the one on top is going to be in front of everything else. So if I do add SVG, and you must have a file name, and I happen to know shape_circle, and dash count 1, and if I hit the tab key, it'll update. And you can see it's behind the piece that's already there. And if you want it bigger, you can always come back up and you can scale it bigger. Now notice we're still on the flower of life, which is the other one. We're still on this one. So if I try scaling it, we're scaling the wrong one. All right, so I want to go to the next line down, so I have to hit the next button to go to the next line down. And that shows me that now I'm on the circle and it's behind this piece here, and it shows me I'm on line 2. So I can now scale both and make it bigger. And pop up the stroke weight. Ding, 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 ding. All right. And I can always go back to the previous one and say, you know what? I don't like one of those. I want 6 of those. So I can come down here and pop it to 6. Now I have 6. They're really far away, so I'm going to put them on top of that circle. So let's move it down and move it on top of the circle. All right, so I moved it on top of the circle, but now it looks like they're way too big, so I'm going to come up here and scale it back a bit. Bink, and we'll just scale it back a bit. And you can see you can immediately design your system. If you decide that you want to cut off some of this, let's adjust the line width of this circle. So I'm going to adjust my stroke here to nice and wide. All right, and suppose I want to cut off these flowers. I could push those flowers behind the black line. And that's simply a matter of moving it backward. So it's in the script, it's going to move it down. So I have to go on the correct line. So here's the correct line we want to move it backward. And it'll pop back. And you're just going to keep hitting backward until it gets to the right spot where you want it. If you look down in the script, you can see we have a blank line that's not doing anything. And we have our shape is on top and our flower is on the next line down. So it's being hidden. All right, if you are typing something in up here and you get some build errors, you'll see them down here and you can go back and correct it. There is a full guide to the actual commands. There's a bunch of different commands. Oh, before I forget, before I get off on that tangent, you can change out at any time the different pieces and see if you like it or not. So let's jump that rotation back to 0. So you can change out the different pieces. You can also manually type up here, like say I don't like that dash dot pattern. I can just go erase that out. Make sure there's a space, hit the tab key, and now it's a solid line again. All right, and I can keep changing it. So you can move back and forth through your design until you get what you're looking for, the effect that you want. All right, now, where was I going? Oh yes, the commands. Over here in the help, we have all of the different pieces to the add SVG. You can see you can use different options. The one in bold is the short version, and then you can use the longer version if you want to be able to read it and edit it later easily. You can do that, and it'll tell you what each one of those pieces do and what it's supported. We also have this thing called a defaults command. When you start getting into typing, you can set up the default for subsequent lines, and you can always reset it back to what the program was to begin with. Grouping is if you want to go edit it in an SVG editor. Otherwise, it's not worth messing with, but you can group your objects manually for multiple adds SVG lines. All right, you can also comment your code. So your standard programming // whatever you're most comfortable with. As a programmer, I use them all. All right, interface notes, you have what all of those do, and you can read those later. But basically, it's what I just said. All right, let's go ahead and close that. We also have a gallery, of which currently, at the time of this recording, the help stuff is sitting over in the gallery too. So distance from the center of design, and I'll show you like D equals 50, D equals 25, and obviously 25 is the one that's closer to the center. All right, rotation versus offset. So 0-degree rotation is in this green, so it's just straight up and down. If I rotate it 90 degrees, which is a -R90 here, that's the blue one, and it just turns it. If I offset it by 30 degrees, that's the -O, it actually starts the drawing over 30 degrees, and so I can interspace them around. All right, there's your fill and your opacity. Same thing with your stroke and your stroke opacity and some stroke design notes. Any one of these, if you wanted to see what it looks like, you can copy it. You can go back over to the creator. You can come down here to the script, and you can paste it in. You don't have to overwrite it. You could just add it to what's there, but I'm going to overwrite it. And you can see it, and you can start playing with it using all of the things that you could use before. So let's see. Let's get off the comment lines. This circle here, I can say, well, suppose I add a bunch of weight to that line too. I can do that. I can drag it. Wow, I can drag it way big. So there's things, and you'll see that it cuts off here. That's a function of my sizing not showing the entire graphic, but it's still there. When you download the image, it'll still be in the image. All right, moving back on, over here. All right, you have the dash dot patterns. Here's some that you can use as a sample template. Down here we have line caps. They're standard for drawing programs. You can actually look that up on the web if you wanted to. Same thing for the line joins, for how you want to do the line joins. If you want to create a simple aura, I know they use it in Zentangle. They say auraing, where you make a little line next to a bigger line or whatever. Same thing. This tells you exactly how to do it, and it's really, really pretty simple. So let's erase everything. Bink, add a circle. Let's go add a circle, and I only want one circle, so we're going to make one circle. Bink, one circle. And if I wanted to make a smaller line inside this circle, I could just hit the copy command. Bink. And it doesn't look like anything changed, but it did actually create, if we look at the script, a second line, and we are still on the first line, so we're still in front of the previous line, and I can just scale it down a little bit and kind of decide where I want it, and I have another line. You can also manually type in the scale. Say, oh, I want it bigger than that. If I'm having issues dragging, I can go manually type it. Oh, 30 is too big. 28. And I'm hitting the tab key to save it. So I can get exactly how far apart I want. I can also change out, obviously, the stroke weight and make it look however we want it to look. All right, so that's the simple how to draw a second line fairly quickly. You can also mask out things using a white object with no stroke, with a zero opacity stroke. This number here, these colors, that's RGBA, red, green, blue, and alpha. 0 is 00 for alpha is transparent. FF is 100% opaque, and 80 is the middle value, is 50%. All right, so moving on. Here we go. If you wanted to create a design and use it inside of another design, suppose I want these little circles right here, and I want to see them around each piece. Now, obviously, you could position them manually using a bunch of offsets and whatever. Yeah, don't do that. It's a waste of time. All right, so you create your little design, and you save it as an SVG. So you get the SVG, and then you upload the SVG, and then you use it again. So when it's uploaded, it actually creates a new spot. So we have this upload component. Choose file. I can pick an SVG, of which I put them all somewhere else, so who knows where they are. Anyway, you can upload it, it'll appear. All right, moving on. Might have to cut that piece out. Did I cover everything? If you wanted to delete a line, you didn't like it, boom, it's gone. You can always redo. Well, I guess I can't. Undo. Sorry, undo. You can undo. Aha. All right, if you add versus insert, that's an important thing. Add puts a line after the current line, so it'll be behind the current line. So if I go to the end of the script and I hit add, and I put something and I click something, that adds it at the default distance. So I want to scroll it back a little bit. All right, so there it is at a distance. Might as well scale it back a little bit too. All right, there we go. All right, so I've now created a new line. If I wanted to put something in front of this line, I could do insert and insert something. Say, let's insert one of these guys, and we'll bring it back. So I'm going to put it and position it over top of the other one. Now, obviously, it hid the other one because it's over top of it, but I can scale that back until I can see them both. And I can tweak it a little bit. Say I want the distance to be 12. And maybe even more than that. Let's pop it up to 17. All right, so now you can see that I have now positioned an element on top of the other one. So that's insert. Insert puts it above the current line. Add puts it after and below the current line. All right, you can also copy a line. Suppose I want this line, bink, and I want to offset it by 30 degrees, bink, and I want to rotate it so it's facing the other direction. So let's rotate it 180. There we go. And so now I can do every other like so. And I could also tweak that and say, well, Oh no, more. And you can make it look however you want it to look, and you can keep shuffling things more or less. And again, you can always adjust your stroke weight. You could change out your stroke color, pink, like so. And you can make any design you want. Back over to the gallery, moving on. You can actually get really pretty complex when you start getting into adding comments, typing in a bunch of things like this very center piece right here that's very hard to see. Let me see, can I open image, new tab? Let's see, pink. All right, this very center is 1, 2, 3, 4 circles. All right, and so if we look back over here, I have, oops, sorry, this one. I have my 1, 2, 3, 4 circles, and I actually say the center circles. I set the defaults to a count of 1, so I don't have to retype -1 every single time. And I just change out the parameters I want to change. Now I change it to 8. So the next circle, we're going to do a bunch of 8 things. So if we look at the design, you can see that there are 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of each one of these little pieces. And so the defaults let me not have to retype everything a whole bunch of times. And then I just reset it after that so that I know exactly where I'm at. Here's where I start doing some things manually. And I actually notate it. Ring 1. This is my little dot because I kept forgetting where the little dot was and I kept wanting to change it around a little bit because I wasn't happy with where it was. So I added a comment so I'd know where that was. So on. You can get pretty designs. Squirrely, you can actually, I like high contrast things, so I like a lot of black and white. There's a new one that's not loaded up on the page yet that'll show up eventually that's geometric design. But basically, that's how you use this particular tool. If you wanted to, you can get the script, so you can save it for later. You could load a script, which is not showing up. Here we go. Over here to downloads. Here we go. Script. You could load it back in if you wanted to. So let's see, is my geometric? No, geometric's not here. Jump over to the geometric. Let's see. Let's see if this is it, just for good measure. I'm going to hit the upload button, which is off screen. Yeah, there's the geometric one. And so you can come back to it later, so you don't have to do it all at once, and you don't lose it if your browser closes. You can always save it and reload it. And edit it. You can change it around, decide if you want to change something. Your Get SVG, those just do downloads straight up. You can change your download size here. That only affects the PNG and the JPEG because SVGs can be sized to anything you want. You can make it a billboard if you wanted to. In any case, enjoy, have fun playing with it, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with.